WiSP Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 17 of the WiSP Sports Desk here. I'm Chris Stafford alongside my co-host, Nancy Gillen. And before we get started, a word from our sponsors. Summer is here. You don't want to miss that majestic summer sunset, perfect wave, or family picnic because you're stuck at home with ear pain. You can make a splash at that next beach party with Highlands homeopathic earache drops and tablets for natural relief or minor fever, ear pain, and throbbing associated with earaches. After you've been diagnosed by a physician, try Highlands homeopathic earache drops or tablets. Highlands has been trusted by generations to provide safe homeopathic medicines for everyone in your family. Earache drops are available at Walgreens. To learn more, go to highlands.com/ear. That's HYLANDS, highlands.com/ear. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence, not FDA evaluated. Always read and follow label directions. Well, Nancy, another week of lockdown. How are you surviving?
Yeah, not too bad, really. Just kind of same old, and we've had a bit of good weather as well. So, yeah, just kind of same as normal.
It's a new norm we're all adjusting to, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose as the weeks go on, it does become, you get more used to it. I think over here in the UK, we're going to have an update at the end of the week, and kind of they're going to set out how to ease restrictions. But obviously, my job as a journalist, it's quite easy to do it virtually or like remotely anyway. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting this to, like you said, be the new normal for quite a few more months now.
Yes, and it will be interesting to see how people feel confident about travelling after the shutdown and flying and travelling to other countries that have been hard hit.
Yeah, and I think it's going on planes really as well. When even if they socially distance, you've got kind of the aircon in planes, like Renew. It basically recycles old air from the plane anyway, so socially distancing doesn't even really work on planes. And I think when athletes kind of go back to competing in events all across the world, there will be a bit of maybe anxiety about competing again, because if it's not completely safe, then some athletes might just not want to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the worry, isn't it? That we're going to behave different socially, and especially if you're in high performance sports, your livelihood is in danger.
Yeah, definitely. And I think some athletes obviously have been struggling to keep training at home, especially if they are high performing, because they're so used to training constantly, and they need special equipment. So even when we do come out of lockdown, I suppose as well, athletes will have to put in extra work to get their fitness back up to what it was as well.
Yes, it will certainly be very interesting to see. And I know there's some concern about whether the Olympics will even go ahead next year, as it has been rescheduled to do. But you've got more of that later on in the show in the news segment. But we're going to hear from Kaitlin Sandeno, who is a new host of a brand new show, Behind the Blocks, which was launched just this week. And as well as being a newly minted podcaster, Kaitlin wears a few different hats, which we'll hear about in just a moment. Kaitlin is a swimming Olympic gold medalist and a 4-time Olympic medalist and 6-time world champion. And I spoke to her about the podcast, which we launched this week, and what to expect, what's coming up on the show. So, Kaitlin, welcome to the team. You are officially a podcaster. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. I'm really excited for this opportunity. It's already been so fantastic, and I'm looking forward to even more.
Well, tell everybody what it is you're doing with this show. It's a 6-part show every other week. And I think you're tapping into a lot of your circle of friends and network here to just sit around the fire and have a chat with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're in such a unique time as it is, with so much that has obviously happened and is determining a very uncertain future moving forward. So it's an opportunity to sit down with these athletes who honestly just got their world rocked, right? And here they were prepping for the Olympics, and how do they move forward, and how do they change that mindset and that plan? And then also pulling from some of my fellow teammates or coaches, asking for their perspective and how they see that they can move in a positive direction from, the unfortunate events that have occurred, that having to train another year and mentally prepare for another year or financially prepare for another year. So I think, obviously it's always for me very interesting to spend some quality time with athletes, let alone swimmers. But then in this time of, I'm just going to say, turmoil, where you really can break it down and get raw and organic with these athletes. And, luckily we've just had some very insightful guests thus far. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for them to kind of use it almost as therapeutical, also, like get it off their chest and share it, and maybe pass on their words of wisdom. And we truly will get through this together. And if this podcast can help individuals do so, I think that would be really special.
How did you choose your guests?
That's actually really a great question. I wanted to have an eclectic group. I wanted to have a coach that's been there before. And I wanted to have a veteran that is like an icon in the sport. And then I really wanted to highlight up and comers too. Maybe some athletes that aren't as big of names, but are, shining so bright in our sport, but maybe just, the swimming community hasn't heard of them yet, or, the greater audience. So I wanted obviously people that have accomplishments, not to say they have to, be Olympic champs. We have a lot of NC2A champs and people that are training for the Olympics, but somebody that I know has a story, or somebody that's overcome obstacles. Or a question that I get a lot is, how do you be a student and an athlete? And so bringing athletes on board that have that impressive background of not only being great in the pool, but doing really well academically as well, because I feel like that's something our younger generation can learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kicked off, I think, with an old mate of yours, Sydney Gallagher, the coach.
Yes,
you've known quite a while. So tell everybody who's going to be on episode 2.
In 2 weeks' time. So this is really interesting story. So we have Beta Nelson coming on board. And last year as a junior, Beta had an incredible NC2As. And she was named NC2A Swimmer of the Meet. So she was looking to come into her senior year, having then hopefully just as impressive NC2As. NC2As gets canceled like the week of. So I really wanted to talk to her about that process, what that was like emotionally, the roller coaster of, is this happening? Are we going to have a meet? Are we not going to have a meet? The meet gets canceled. Then the Olympics get canceled. Then Olympic trials get canceled. It was a snowball effect for somebody that was shining so bright. It was at the perfect point to just really explode again. So we'll have Beta Nelson on in 2 weeks' time, and just to see her mindset, how it had this shift, and admitting that, she was really upset at first, and she was very candid about it, and was very organic and raw. And I just really appreciate her honesty coming into this interview. And she's just impressive. I just feel like she's still so young, but seems so wise and mature. And as I mentioned before, is a phenomenal student athlete as well. So I think it's really important that we highlight that accomplishment, because that in itself is a huge feat.
Yeah, for sure. Now, apart from now being officially a podcaster, Kaitlin, you're also a coach. Tell us what else you're doing, because I want to come to another point in just a minute. But just fill everybody in what life looks like for you right now.
So currently I am the general manager for DC Trident. That is one of 10 professional swim teams. This league is called ISL, International Swimming League, and this league kicked off its inaugural season last year. So obviously our season just got rocked as well, because going into season 2, our whole schedule was based off the Olympic schedule. Obviously we are in a plan B phase right now, but my primary responsibilities are filling a roster of 32 swimmers, men men and women. And the goal is for the ISL to all come together in what we hope will be October, to have an opportunity for our athletes to all train together and compete, because obviously right now they're not training, but they're not competing either. So that is my job, my number one priority right now. And that's, it's a full plate, but a lot of it is just being really supportive of our athletes and helping them through this challenging time, while assembling a very competitive roster and a staff, and looking towards what it looks like to help build this league, because it is a startup. It's the first of its kind, a financial opportunity for our athletes, not only to be on the team, and then prize money involved as well. So it's something I'm really proud to be a part of. Makes me one of the first female GMs in professional sports, especially of a co-ed team. So I'm really proud of that. Last season, I hired an all-female coaching staff, which is also pretty unheard of and breaks a lot of barriers, especially in our sport. As you heard it with Cindy Gallagher this week, our first guest, she's one of very few head coaches, female head coaches in swimming. And then when you really narrow down what she's accomplished, there's only probably about 3 women that have had that much success as a head coach in the sport of swimming. So it's been exciting to kind of shake things up a little bit and hopefully lead by example to our female generation, and then just help grow the sport of swimming as well.
Yeah, well, that's a great challenge for you too, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is. And it's great to be challenged, and quite frankly, I was doing a lot of things that I had never done before. A lot of things I didn't think that I was really qualified for, but man, I figured it out. And it's really refreshing to me to know that I can do more than just swim or do more than just coach. Like, there was a lot of business things that I had to be ready to rock and roll in our first season. I'm really proud of what we accomplished in a very short amount of time and with a very small budget and a very, very small staff. So that's been, something I've been proud of. It just shows that you're just continuing to grow and evolve, and you can even surprise yourself. And something that I also do that I really, really enjoy, and something that's kind of picking up more right now virtually, is motivational speaking. So taking my past experiences and sharing them and trying to encourage people. And, I had a lot of obstacles in my swimming career. Like, things did not go very smoothly. And I had a lot, what I call speed bumps, things that slow me down. And this is a perfect example of a speed bump, right? We're being slowed down right now. So it's kind of funny, I needed my own time in the beginning of isolation and quarantine to kind of get my own mind right. And then once I felt like I was doing well and was strong and, positive, I was like, all right, let's start engaging with the swimming community to start inspiring younger swimmers. And honestly, coaches are looking for things that they can do with their team right now. They still want to be a unit. They still want to inspire these kids. They want to keep them motivated outside the pool. So that's becoming a little bit more popular. I've been doing about 2 or 3 speeches a week. So it's been pretty fun to connect across the country doing this.
Yeah, that's great fun. Now, a lot of athletes we know, retired athletes, do the motivational speaking. So GM, podcaster, coach, motivational speaker, and now author.
Yes, I'm so excited. It's funny. We actually thought the book would launch about now, but for the once ever, it got done really quickly. So I'm almost coming on a year of celebrating the release of my book. About 10 months ago, we released Golden Glow. It was something that I always wanted to do, but didn't really know how to do it all myself, and kind of put it on the back burner, would revisit it, back burner. It's time consuming. A lot goes into it, and emotionally too, and physically. It's draining. It's a lot of work. And then the stars just aligned. I got the right people involved, and we got moving and shaking on this project, and wanted to definitely release it before the 2020 games. Now it's going to be out a little bit earlier than the next Olympics. But I wrote this book hoping to inspire, motivate, encourage, to let people just kind of know my story. I do get asked to speak a lot, and we only get this much time, like 35, 45 minutes. You're like, there's a whole lot more that went into this, the ins, the outs, how you're raised, how your parents were, what other sports you did, how you did in high school. And, it's pretty long-winded. I talk fast, but not that fast. So putting this all down on the book was just, for me, it was therapeutical too. My mom was going through breast cancer at this time. And I kind of, I kind of just pushed all of my obligations and gigs aside, and my number one focus was my mom. And so I was by her side a lot, taking her to all of her appointments and just being home with her, you know, making sure she was eating. And my dad still had to work during this time. So just kind of being her companion. So she would, you know, fall in and out of little cat naps, and I would just start writing and pulling out old journals that I kept at the Olympics. So it was a very emotional time in my own life, but it was very therapeutical also to have some type of outlet while I wasn't really working very much. Just being there, you know, as a family member. And then everything came together pretty well.
Yeah. So how can people find the book and then if they want to?
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of downtime right now. People are reading more than ever. So you can you can find Golden Glow on Amazon. Although the last I checked, it said it had limited copies available. So maybe that's a good thing. But it's also available on like Barnes & Noble and through the publishing company, which is Rowan and Lilyfield. So there's a couple different opportunities to get that way. But if you just browse it, it's showing up. And it's a hardcover, so it's nice, good quality. And I was, you know, very transparent, very honest through it all, and show the good parts, the you know, the highs, and I think it's really important to show the lows as well, because I think that makes you relatable, and I think that is what people want, and that they're really especially really needing right now too. It's not always rainbows, butterflies, and kittens. You know, life is hard. And when you're an Olympian, it's hard too. I think a lot of people think like it comes easier to you. It doesn't. It really doesn't. If anything, it's harder.
If anything, it's harder, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we push through a little bit differently.
Yeah. You have to. It really shows what you're made of, doesn't it, to be an Olympian?
I think so. So.
Well, this is fantastic. And it's great to have you on the team, Kaitlin. We love it.
Thank you.
It's, you know, the first episode has been well received this week, and it's only a couple of days now, but we will look forward to future episodes of Behind the Blocks. And you should mention the idea of Behind the Blocks. You have a segment at the end of each show where you ask your guests what you know about their preparation behind the blocks, and we're not going to give anything away because there's some really fun responses there.
It has been really funny. You know, it's so funny is that question actually came to me like while I was interviewing my first guest, and I was like, oh, it matches obviously the title of the show, but everybody is so different behind the blocks, and it's like behind the blocks right before the gun goes off, what do you like? And it's been really neat to hear the responses, and it kind of makes me think of my own, or I get like pumped up hearing other people what they're like. And I think too, you know, it's a question I get asked a lot, like, well, how did you handle your nerves? And a lot of times where you see the nerves is behind the block. So it's been very insightful. I've really enjoyed that final question.
Yeah, it really is fun. Okay, well, episode 1 is out. We look forward in 2 weeks' time to episode 2. And then there'll be 4 more episodes to come. And we're hoping that we can keep you interested in podcasting. Now you've got a taste of it, Kaitlin.
It's been so great. It's been really fun. It's just great to connect. You know, it's just great to communicate. And it's really special to not only highlight women in sports, but specifically for swimming. You know, that's where my sweet spot is. I'm so grateful for the sport, but, you know, I'm just an avid sports fan in general. So it's been really a really great synergy being with WiSP.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks for taking time to come on the show. And just to let everybody know that we have pre-recorded this because you're in California and you, by your own admission, Kaitlin, are not a morning person, which actually took me by surprise because I thought swimmers had to get up at dark 30 and be in the pool.
Okay, you and my husband, Pete, my husband's like, there's no way you're a swimmer. I'm like, why would you say that? He's like, you're the worst morning person I have ever met. He's like, did you really go to morning workouts? I'm like, oh my gosh, talk to my dad. Because before I had my license, my poor father had to take me, and I would just sit in a car, like arms folded, silence, just like laser beams at the road. Like, what am I doing? I am the biggest morning baby. Like, I cannot wake up until like at least 7:15, 7:30. So I'm like, 8 o'clock is my sweet spot. Okay. And being on the West Coast is hard. You're so behind everybody else.
Yeah. Well, thanks for making time to do this, Kaitlin.
My pleasure.
We will look forward to future episodes. Thanks for taking the time.
Fabulous.
It's been very well received that so far, Nancy. Have you had time to listen to it already?
Not yet, but I think I will later on today because I've got a day off today. So I'll definitely use my time listening to that.
There you go. Good time for listening to podcasts, right? It's a great time to launch a podcast. And if you're into podcasting, people are listening to podcasts if they never listened before. And even if they did, they're listening to new shows. I know for one, I'm just looking for new material all the time. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot more um, spare time to listen to stuff. And then also here we got our daily exercise. And I know a lot of people like listening to podcasts and stuff while they're doing their walk or their run. So, yeah, it's like you said, it's a great time to be doing podcasts.
Yeah, it really is. Well, as usual, you have harvested a great deal of news for this week. When you consider there's no actual sport, you've still been able to find stories for inside the games there, some of which you've been covering and others that your colleagues have been covering. So I think the top story, certainly from here in the US, was about the women's soccer team's equal pay claim being dismissed by a federal judge last week, which was hugely disappointing. And that has to be our top story, Nancy.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it was breaking, I was just about to go to sleep here. So I think the kind of dramatic moment when it broke was a bit missed, but it was still kind of massive news here. And I think a lot of kind of, women in sport over here have looked to that lawsuit against US soccer as kind of, one of the guiding lights in the attempt to get gender equality in sport. So it was quite disappointing to see that they'd kind of rejected um, the lawsuit. But I suppose they're still trying with some things. I think the fact that they normally fly on economy flights while the men fly on business class or first class, and then also the personnel that are given to each team. So I think there's the idea that the men are normally kind of given priority in terms of hiring personnel. So I think I don't think it's a definite loss for them, and this definitely isn't going to be the end of their bid to get equal pay. But it's quite a big blow at the moment for them.
It certainly is. And that leads you on to another story that quotes Megan Rapinoe, who's keeping herself very visible these days during the lockdown.
Yeah, so she is a member of the US women's team that is trying to get equal pay, and she's been very vocal about it. So a lot of people know her for that, and also for her impressive performance at the World Cup last year. And she's just kind of talked about, she has competed at Olympic Games before, and she won gold at London 2012. But she's just been talking about Tokyo 2020, which has obviously been postponed until next year because of coronavirus. And there have been some doubts about the games, about whether they can happen if there's no pandemic. And Rapinoe is one of those people that has said she's a little bit doubtful about it. She just says, the more I think about it logistically, just bringing everybody together like that with the absence of drug therapies or anything like that just seems difficult. Certainly, you want to be able to go out the way that you want to and not sort of to be pushed out by a pandemic. If it happens, we can't play sports for a number of years or whatever it may be. And she just essentially says she can make peace with it, and she is hoping to play in the Olympics. But I think I probably imagine it's kind of a bit of managing expectations, because it sounds like it will be her last Olympics. Obviously, she will want to compete, but at the same time, I think a lot of athletes need to be realistic and keep in their mind that it still might not be able to happen next year, which of course would be a massive shame, but it is very plausible at the moment, I think.
And yeah, hugely disappointing for the athletes who are coming to the end of their elite career anyway. I know of some others who have expressed concern that this is going to happen or could potentially happen. I mean, even the change of schedule to next year is really affecting those that did see this as their last year at competing on the team, and certainly for the Olympics. So it's a real strain on them, and I think it's hard if they maybe just failed to qualify for a previous Olympics too, and this is going to be their last shot.
Yeah, and I think maybe if they're reaching the end of the career, and yeah, like you said, they've never competed and they were waiting for it, and obviously, the amount that athletes put themselves through to compete. I think I was reading something when an athlete, I think it was a canoeist, was saying that the year before the Olympics, you start essentially putting yourself through hell and like your body through hell to get yourselves ready for it. So these athletes have kind of been doing that for 8 months and then being told not to, and then they know psychologically that they're going to have to start doing it again. And then there are also all these doubts about whether it will even happen. So I think psychologically, yeah, athletes have to be incredibly strong right now because, yeah, it's just, I think, quite disappointing, really. And obviously, if they get cancelled again, then it's going to be even more disappointment.
Yeah. And even if they're not in an Olympic sport, of course, it's highly demoralizing not to be able to train to aim for your goal and the dreams that you've always had. So, Nancy, why don't you take us through the rest of the news you've got this week?
Yeah. So kind of like I was saying before, the Olympics have been postponed because of coronavirus, and this has had a real like knock-on domino effect for the rest of the sporting calendar, with a lot of events being moved or even cancelled. So the World's Aquatic Championships, that is one that has been moved from 2021 to May 2022. So that's been pushed back, and that year is also the World Athletics Championships, which were moved from 2021 to 2022. And then you already had the Commonwealth Games that summer as well. So 2022 is starting to become a really jam-packed year of sport. And then this week it's been announced that the Women's Softball World Cup will be postponed to 2023. And it was meant to take place in 2021, but softball's at the Olympics, it's been added back on. It was there at Beijing in 2008, and it's missed a few years, and now it's been added back on for Tokyo because baseball and softball are quite popular in Japan. So obviously it's kind of really hard to have a World Cup of a sport and also the Olympics. I think that'd just be quite testing for the athletes. So that's been moved to 2023. And then the softball is also part of the World Games, which is taking place in 2022. So they're just going to determine the world champion by who wins the World Games competition in 2022. So, like I was saying, it's all a massive domino effect. So events are kind of getting moved left, right, and centre. And then cycling has also announced dates for races which are meant to be taking place around now. And this is kind of a long running saga with women's cyclists because the International Cycling Union were kind of only announcing new dates for the men's tour, and it seems to be that they were prioritizing the men's races a lot more than the women's races. There wasn't really any information being released about the women's races. But the International Cycling Union has now announced the new dates for the women's tour. In my eyes, it does seem quite ambitious because the first race is set to take place on August the 1st. And then that's going to be followed by time trial and road races in Sweden. And then you've kind of got the normal just women's tours like the Tour of Norway, La Course in France. And they've also announced the first Paris Roubaix. I can never remember how you say that last one, but it's a race that only men have competed in, but women are now going to compete in that. So that's going to be on October, and then the final races are going to take place in November. So they've kind of essentially just pushed the whole season a few months back. But like I said before, in my eyes, that's just a tiny bit ambitious because August the 1st is only kind of just under 3 months away. And a lot of these races are in Europe, which is obviously been quite badly hit by coronavirus. So personally, I'm not too sure whether they will have to be changed again. This isn't a case of the women going first and then the men going again when it's all fine. The men are also races are also taking place at the same time. So we'll just have to see what happens with that, I think. But yeah, potentially there might have to be another rescheduling. And then some non-coronavirus stories, which is always quite nice. The International Netball Federation president, Liz Nichol, she's been talking about her ambitions and how she hopes to get netball in the Olympics. So it's already a Commonwealth Games sport, and it's, I think, quite a popular sport in the Commonwealth Games, but that is mainly because it really only is played by Commonwealth countries. A lot of countries don't really play netball to the same level. But Nichol is hoping that one day netball will be able to be part of the Olympics. It's quite interesting though, because one of the main reasons why it doesn't really have much chance is that nowadays the International Olympic Committee, who decide what sports come into the games or not, they are looking for 50-50 gender split. So they always want something that will provide an equal balance of male and female athletes. And netball is just incredibly female dominated. All the teams really are female. That it isn't just men don't really play it, or if they do play it, there's not that much opportunity for them to play it. So I think for me, I think netball would have to really kind of develop the men's side of it before they could consider being included in the Olympics, because the IOC are just, they want every sport to be 50-50. So that is quite interesting. And I think Nicole is quite realistic about it. I think she does know that it will be a couple of years, or quite a few years, but yeah, it's interesting to know that they still have those Olympic ambitions. The final story is about another sport that also isn't an Olympic sport, and that's Teqball. And I was at the Teqball World Championships in December in Hungary, and it's basically kind of table football. It's like a table tennis table, but it's curved, and then you have kind of two pairs or singles just kicking the ball over to each other. It's a very entertaining sport. It's very kind of technical and skillful. And one of the interesting things about it is that there isn't any difference between kind of men and women. Like, men and women play each other at it. You've got like a mixed pairs event, so which encourages men and women to be playing each other. And it's not a contact sport, and it's not really physical, so there isn't really any reason why men and women can't play each other at it. So when I went to Teqball World Championships, I think that was kind of one of the unique things I noticed about it. And then to two American Teqball players, Caroline Greco and Nancy Iverson, they're now kind of involved in the first Teqball club in the United States, which is called LA Techers, which is quite good. I like that name. And they're also members of the world's first all-women's Teqball team, which is called Bellatek. And they've just kind of praised Teqball for being so gender inclusive. They say they like the fact that you can compete against males, and there's kind of no real difference. So you can quite easily see women beat men. And they're also saying that they're hoping to see women's singles join the World Championships, because currently there is no women's singles event. And then they even say that they think potentially Teqball could eventually become an Olympic sport. And I suppose when I was just saying that netball isn't likely because it's not got a good gender split, I suppose Teqball does have kind of the perfect gender split. So maybe that is a real possibility in the future. So yeah, I think quite a good variation of stories there. Obviously, we've got some coronavirus stories, but it's good to see that kind of women's sport is also continuing without coronavirus as well.
And staying in the news.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also important, that it's not overshadowed by kind of, it's not all about kind of the pandemic and so on. It's other women's sports stories are also still out there.
Absolutely. Well, as usual, we'll have the links to all of these stories on our show notes. That's at wisports.com. Just go to the Listen tab at the top menu there and drop down to WiSP Sports Desk, and you'll find all the recent episodes there, as well as, of course, as on your podcast player. Just look for WiSP Sports. And Nancy, we've been setting each other a challenge here as what exercise we're doing. We're not working. And we both pulled out the bicycles. How's the biking going?
I'm using kind of a really old BMX, and last week it broke again because I was having some problems with it before. So I am now on the lookout for a proper bike, like a road bike or mountain bike. So my challenge has now changed to get a proper bike.
You're up in the game.
I'm up in the game. Yeah, I don't know if you know the app Strava.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was got really big over here during the lockdown, because obviously you can track exercise and then you can follow your friends and stuff. And so I said last week I've started running again. So I've been tracking it all on that, and then your friends can see and kind of like, instead of liking, it's called kudos, so they can give you kudos.
Okay.
And it's just, yeah, a lot of my friends are cycling, and I really want to get a proper bike, so I can just track it on that. I don't know what it is about the app that's made it so exciting, but I just really like it. It kind of keeps me motivated, because I suppose because it is then published, so people see what you're doing. It kind of keeps you motivated.
Yes. Yeah, you're accountable now, Nancy.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, at the moment I'm still just kind of I'm trying to master the 5K, and then I'm gonna start pushing on to a 10K hopefully soon.
Well, it's just serious. Okay. But, it doesn't happen until we see photos. We have to be able to publish photos. So come on, your social media awaits you.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I'm just trying to run a 5K without being horrifically sweaty. Yeah, and then I'll then I'll give proof.
There you go. All right, we need evidence, and I think it's great that you're able, because you had an injury, didn't you? Knee injury, so now you're back at it. That's really good. It's a slow build up, right? I mean, you listen to athletes and coaches all the time, so you've got all the advice in the world how to build up.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, yeah, I had knee surgery 2 years ago, so it's been a really slow build up, but I think I've done it the right way, because you hear athletes talking about coming back too early and then just making it even worse. So I was just really didn't want that to happen.
You're learning from their mistakes. Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Yeah, we await those photos. We will share them on social media. And one of these days, I will get somebody to take a picture of me on the bike. So, because I've talked about this new bike I've got. I think we need to put out something there if we're going to be, competing here. I mean, I'm not sure about the mileage. I think you'll be way ahead of me on the mileage, but anything to stay fit and active and get out there in the fresh air. Well, that's our show for this week. I want to thank our sponsors, Highlands Earache Drops. You can find those at highlands.com/ear. You can find out more about those products and their earache drops. That's highlands.com/ear. Now, we're going to do something completely different to play us out this week. I've got a music track, Nancy, from an artist I recently discovered. She's an independent artist. She's Mexican, but she lives in Montreal. Her name is Lara Sofia, and she just released a new track. Just thought it had a lovely rhythm. She has a lovely voice. Junto a mí. And which actually means next to me, I think, in Spanish. So we're going to play out with that. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social media, where you'll see all those pictures of Nancy in action at Nancy_Gillen and at WiSP Sports, of course. And you can post your comments and questions, as always, on any of our social media channels. And we will be back next week with another guest. We've got guests lined up for the next few weeks, actually. So stay tuned to the WiSP Sports Desk for the very latest stories in women's sports from around the world. Until then, thanks, Nancy. Stay safe and get fit.
Thank you.
Pensando